that. So I will call to order the July 2nd, 2025 regular meeting of the Hendersonville City Council. We begin our meetings with a silent invocation for people to pray or meditate as they choose, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll rise, please. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We had no one signing up in person for public comment. Is there anyone seeking recognition online to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
No. Okay. All right. Well,
What's the first?
well, we can go on then to our agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to have removed from or added to the agenda? Or a motion to approve?
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not, those in favor of approving the agenda as presented say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, we have our agenda. Consent agenda, is there anything anyone would like to have moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda so it can be discussed? If not, a motion to approve.
Madam Mayor, I move that the City Council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? None? Those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, and all of those things have been approved. Okay, presentations. Down to that already, quicker than you thought. Electric vehicle charger program overview.
Well, hello, I'm Caitlin Jandusa, Public Works Superintendent for Sustainability. So today I'm sharing with you just an update on the city's electric vehicle charging program. If you're not familiar, this program has been around for about 10 years now, so I thought we were at a good point to look at the financial side of the program, how this has been sustained, consider some sort of fee to help offset or pay for this program, and maybe also consider what your long-term goals are for this program, which is a service to our community. So I just wanted to briefly go over our current charging stations. We have 2 at the parking deck, 1 at Azalea Lot, 1 at Dogwood Lot. We have 1 for city fleet vehicles, and we do have some at Patton Pool that are owned and operated by Duke Energy as part of a grant with the city. Okay, and so here's just kind of a look at the demand of this program over the last few years. So in 2023, you had about 6,500 kilowatt hours per year. And then in 2024, you saw a sharp increase of about 66%. And even going into 2025, we're still kind of in that pretty steep upward trend of use. And to kind of put it into perspective overall throughout the years of this program, from, I should say, the point where we've been able to collect data on that, we've saved 18 tons of greenhouse gas emissions, which kind of goes back to the city's sustainability strategic plan that you adopted last year. So now just looking at the maintenance costs, we have electrical costs and charge point fees. Those charge point fees, I should mention, ChargePoint is the manufacturer of the majority of the city's charging stations. So that's a one-time fee that the city pays each year that covers maintenance costs and also our cloud-based program, essentially how we're able to get data on usage of our stations. And the only thing that this doesn't show is the cost of the charging stations and the install. So our charging stations typically last about 10 years. They're about $7,000, $8,000, and then $600 to install in-house. And I should say, from talking with folks in Public Works, we really haven't had a big maintenance cost of these. Typically, it's just been changing them out when they've reached their end of life. And you can see with electrical cost, of course, with demand, that has increased over time. Charge point fees, which I mentioned, those have typically increased by about 25% each year. So that kind of gives an overall look at what the costs are into this program. Okay, so kind of touching on the costs for the program, I looked at all the costs associated with this program. So you have about $2,700 per year to cover the charging station replacement, the charge point fees, which I mentioned, electricity cost, and then also if you're wanting to consider implementing some sort of fee, there are two options, one going through ChargePoint, one going through Park Mobile. Going through ChargePoint, essentially ChargePoint would handle the payment transaction. So customers would pay for their parking through Park Mobile, and then they would pay for their charging session through ChargePoint, and then ChargePoint would then provide the funds at the end of the month to the city, but they do take a 10% cut from that for handling that transaction side. And then I did look at going through Park Mobile. In my head, I would think this would make the most sense if you're wanting to consider this, since that's already the platform the city uses. But from talking with our parking staff in our police department, that becomes a lot more cumbersome on the user side. Essentially, it's going back to each parking spot has a zone, and so if you have a charging station, you're charging a fee that adds on another zone. If someone's out there paying for parking, they open their app on their phone, they look at the map, they can have a GPS point to help them locate their zone. So I was essentially told it becomes a lot more cumbersome to the user side, and it was recommended to go the ChargePoint route. So that's kind of that side. Taking all those costs, it came to a little under $1 per kilowatt hour if you just wanted to pay for this program as it is. Now, contrast that with what folks are typically charging. I did talk with several other municipalities in our area, and essentially found that folks are paying about 40 cents per kilowatt hour. And I should say, majority of folks I spoke with, other municipalities, they are subsidizing their program to some amount. So it was pretty unlikely that you're charging some sort of fee that covers the entire program. So that's essentially it. I just wanted to kind of bring this information to you, especially since this program has been going on for such a long time. Have you maybe consider what those long-term goals are? If you are interested in charging some sort of fee, that would help offset those costs to our public works. But anyways, I'm here for any questions, or if not, I can let you continue.
Can we go back one slide, Caitlin, with the bar graph?
Yes.
So looking at that, it's interesting. Of course, that's only part of a year. What I was looking at was the charge point fees seem to be the bulk of our cost is paying for the software or charge point. Is there an alternative to charge point fees? I mean, because it looks like the electrical cost, we had a pretty big uptick in '24 in electrical costs, which means more utilization, but there's more positive gain there. But looking at the cost, it looks like at least half of our cost each year is charge point fees. Just wondering, is there an alternative? And if we went to the pay model, then we would pay not only what we're paying for charge point now, but also they would get 10% more for processing credit cards and things like that.
Yeah, and that's the tricky, so I know ChargePoint was used for the parking deck, and from the stations we've replaced since then, of course, in my head, I think it's great to have one manufacturer you're going with. But if we didn't pay those ChargePoint fees, I guess what we would lose is tracking of the program, so not really knowing our usage. I know that also includes the warranty on the systems, but I could definitely at least dig into that a little more to see.
It's something we should talk about internally to make sure I understand.
Did you get any other quotes from any other software companies?
No, my understanding is, I mean, especially with payment, unless we went with Park Mobile or I guess a different company, ChargePoint, since our stations are ChargePoint, it's usually that makes the most sense. But maybe that is something if the city replaces charging stations or increases them to maybe consider alternative companies, I guess. But I will say, vast majority of our stations are already ChargePoint. They're already new stations. So that'd be a little tricky to change, I guess.
Do you have any idea how many private or third-party charging stations there are in the city of Hendersonville compared to just ours?
No, I could definitely find that out. I know there's been a lot over the years, especially I know the county just had fast stations. I know there's several in our area. So that is something I could look into and provide to you to maybe consider if the city was interested in having more of the private businesses handling that charging infrastructure. So we can still give that service to our community, but maybe not having to pay for that cost on the city.
Caitlin, on the next slide, when you show what the fees would be to recoup the cost, did you figure that out from estimating the cost to buy, the cost to install, and then keeping them for 10 years?
Yeah, so basically breaking it down over the lifespan, which would be roughly 10 years.
10 years or so, okay.
Yeah, just for our existing charging station.
Okay. So I guess we need a little more information before we
Yeah, I can
make
provide
any
that to you and
recommendations.
Because ultimately, I think where, Caitlin and for staff would need to, the policy question is, this has been a service that we've provided to our citizens and visitors, particularly in the downtown area. Is this an amenity that you want to continue to provide at no cost to them? I say no cost, if they're paying for parking, there is a cost, but do you want to add this as a potential additional cost? Or is this something we continue to provide as just an amenity to invite people to come downtown, and this is part of ours? So that will ultimately be the long-term policy question, I think, as it relates to, because these chargers are gonna some of them are gonna need to be replaced. I know the dogwood chargers are probably at the end of their useful life. Maybe, I don't think they've been replaced.
yeah, I don't think, no.
So I think dogwood and then azalea would become after that, so.
I guess I feel if they're paying for parking, then it's not that terribly expensive to give them the free charge.
Thank you.
Thanks, Caleb.
Thank you. All right, we have a number of public hearings this evening. We will start out with a standard rezoning on Old Sunset Hill Road.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. I will give you an efficient presentation on this rezoning. This is actually an initial assignment of zoning for 4 parcels that were recently annexed into the city. They were annexed as part of a proposed development project. The development project did not move forward, but the annexation had already taken place. And so rather than be rezoned or assigned zoning through that development approval, we were left with the parcels, and we have 60 days to assign zoning. And so we're bringing this to you. It is over 20 acres, so pretty good chunk of property. Was located within the county's zoning jurisdiction under their R2R residential to rural zoning district. And we presented multiple options to planning board to consider, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but ultimately their recommendation was for R6, high density residential. So just taking a look at the property, you can see the view along Old Sunset Hill. On the upper left, on the upper right is from Old Sunset looking into the property. Lower left is a creek. There's a couple of creeks. You're familiar with the property. This was part of the this came to you as part of the rezoning, and so you can see some of the adjacent properties and that it abuts up to as well. So looking at the current land use, it is designated, the future land use, we're looking at multi-generational living designation, which is that kind of higher end, more dense, but residential only future land use designation. The parcels in question and the surrounding parcels that are part of a planned residential development all have that designation as MGL. Parcels to the west are designated as mixed-use commercial, which introduces commercial uses as well as residential uses. This includes Connor Creek Mobile Home Park, as well as the manual woodworkers and weavers. There's a large undeveloped parcel to the east that is designated as multi-generational living as well. Parcels to the south are designated as innovation and open space conservation, where there is some floodplain down there. Continuing to look at the comprehensive plan that very much is driving the recommendation here. Staff found that our initial consideration, which was for R15, was going to end up being inconsistent with what we had adopted in the comprehensive plan, and so we shifted to R6 zoning district. Found that would be consistent. One of the major factors there is the subject property is located in a focused intensity node, and this is where we've established a vision for concentrated walkable mixed-use development. And so as you're picking up on, staff, weighed these multiple recommendations. One that was for a more intense zoning district, such as R6, that was based on this vision established in the comp plan, and one that was a less intense zoning district, R15, that reflected compatibility with the surrounding land uses that were in the unincorporated areas. And so ultimately, the planning board recommended R6. It's important to consider that given the size, over 20 acres, and the location, future development of the site is likely, and with that, it's likely to result in a petition for a CZD at some point, if it is, being offered for development. So if and when that time comes, staff would recommend a zoning district that does align well with the city's vision for growth management in that area. Taking a look at the compatibility criteria, the subject property, again, 4 parcels, zoned R2R. There is PRD to the north, that's Ballantyne Commons and Half Moon Heights. Ballantyne has a density of 12 units per acre. Half Moon Heights is just under 3 units per acre. There is a stub out from Half Moon Heights to this property, the tiny little square up there at the top, so that we can do our best to ensure connectivity in this area. You do have in close proximity the PRDs of Wolf Chase and Wolf Pen. Those are also just under 3 units per acre. And then there are parcels to the east, consist primarily of smaller lots with single-family homes. However, there is the large underutilized property directly adjacent to the subject property. And then you have Connor Creek Mobile Home Park. And this park contains 94 mobile home or manufactured home units, and that also has a density of 12 units per acre. And according to a recent survey, some mobile homes in Connor Creek encroach on to this subject property, but from talking to the property owner, there's the resolution to that is in the works. So in addition to the proposed compatibility and that analysis, as it relates to the surrounding land uses and the existing zoning, we look at the goals and guiding principles of the comp plan for this component as well. And you'll see I've highlighted R15 compared to R6 and the ones where R15 was found inconsistent or less consistent versus R6. And so that's really the difference. They're pretty marginal differences between the two in terms of this analysis, in terms of goals and guiding principles. It's just a hair more compatible under R6, and that is really because both zoning districts have all the same uses. They permit the same things. It's really just, and neither one has any design guidelines and design standards. So they're very similar. It's just a matter of the minimum lot size being the difference.
I'll also state that at this time, the city does not have a base residential zoning district that we could apply in this case that would otherwise be a better fit in relationship to the goals and guiding principles of the Gen H plan. The third criteria is change condition. Change condition is the annexation of these properties. For public interest, we can talk about the housing shortage and the fact that this is in close proximity to a major intersection. For public facilities, it is currently only served by city water. Sewer would need to be extended. Old Sunset and Howard Gap are both NCDOT maintained roads. For natural environment, there's no development proposed at this time, but it does contain creeks, wetlands, and nearly 20 acres of tree canopy. The owner mentioned at the public hearing, public comment for planning board that the health of the forest and the canopy there was not that great. It had been logged not too long ago, and so there are some nicer trees on there, but it's not a very old growth type of forest. And the planning board made this recommendation for comp plan consistency as shown on the screen. And they also put forth these rationale for approval, and staff has rationale for denial. But we have to assign zoning, so don't deny it. But you do have options in terms of which zoning district you think is correct. And so we're prepared to guide you in making a motion for approval with whichever zoning district you would think is appropriate. Any questions?
Any questions? Would the property owners like to make a presentation, speak about anything?
Do not see them here.
No? Okay. Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes? We will open this public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on this proposed rezoning? Is there anyone online seeking recognition to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and close that public hearing. Council?
Madam Mayor, I move the city council adopt an ordinance amending the official city zoning map of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation of the subject properties. Pins 9579-980-375, 9579-98-3527, 9579-99-4115, 9579-99-8724 from Henderson County Residential to Rural to R6 High Density Residential Zoning District. Based on the following, the petition is found to be consistent with the City of Hendersonville Comprehensive Plan based on the staff analysis. Because R6 zoning is consistent with the future land use and conservation map due to the subject property's designation as multi-generational living and due to the location of the subject property in a focused intensity node as established by Chapter 4 of the Gen H Comprehensive Plan. Furthermore, we find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the staff analysis, public hearing, and because the proposed zoning allows for the provision of additional housing to offset local demand and the proposed zoning's permitted uses are consistent with nearby developments.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of the motion for Old Sunset Hill Road rezoning say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries, and that one is taken care of. Next, we have a switch over here, all right, a conditional zoning district, Spartanburg Highway Medical Office Building.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. The subject property is made up of two parcels located on Spartanburg Highway. The applicant is UNC Health Part E and the property owner is Henderson County. The applicant is requesting to rezone this subject property to CHMU CZD. And the subject property is approximately 4.54 acres. And the applicant is proposing to construct a 42,520 square foot medical office building and the Gen Age Comprehensive Plan designates this parcel as mixed-use employment. So the neighborhood compatibility meeting for this project occurred on April 29th, and there were 3 residents total in attendance, and we received 0 pre-submitted public comments for that meeting. The main topics discussed during that meeting included the type of medical services that would be provided, whether or not behavioral health programs would be incorporated into the development, drainage, stormwater, and the blue line stream that is shown on the USGS maps were discussed. It was noted that Pardee is an incredible asset to our community, and there were questions revolving around funding and Henderson County's involvement. On the screen are some site photos of the subject property as it exists today. So the top left is a typical view of the property looking southeast from Edith Drive. Top right is a view of the subject property from Old Spartanburg Road looking westward. Bottom left is a view of the subject property's frontage on Spartanburg Highway looking south. And bottom right is the view of the privately maintained road that abuts the property, identified as Edith Drive. So looking at some rezoning history of this property, March 4th, 2004, City Council rezoning granted a special use permit for this property. It was rezoned at that time from C3 and R15 to C3 special use for the construction of a 28,000 square foot cycle center. The cycle center was to include a sales rooms or showroom, sales, service and parts facility and warehouse. The special use permit for that development was set to expire in 2006 and received an extension from City Council until March 2008. The project was never constructed and that special use permit has since expired. So moving into the proposal that is before you all today. On the screen is the proposed site plan and building renderings for this development. The plan shows a building, as I mentioned, it's 42,520 square feet of gross floor area and has a footprint of 19,180 square feet. The building and the site is required to meet all building and design requirements of commercial highway mixed-use developments, and this includes but not limited to building materials, building offsets, building projections, orientation, and also building scale. CHMU does allow for 4 stories for commercial and institutional buildings. However, this building is proposed to be 32 feet and 2 stories. The site plan shows 2 access points onto the subject property, both of which are proposed as full movements. One access will be off Old Spartanburg Road, the other will be off Spartanburg Highway. Sidewalks will be provided along the property frontage of Spartanburg Highway and Old Spartanburg Road. Sidewalks will also be provided to the public frontage of the main building. All lighting will meet the requirements and set forth by city standards. There is a required total number of parking spaces at 170. The development is proposing 196. CHMU developments also have to provide common space, and this development is proposing to install all service utility lines underground for that common space, provide seating under the main covered entry for better social interaction, provide an Apple Country bus stop and shelter along Spartanburg Highway's frontage, and a bike rack at the building as amenities of this project. The most recent USGS maps do show a blue line stream running through this property. However, it was previously piped and would not be subject to any of the stream buffer requirements. The site would be required to provide the following landscaping: vehicular use area, open space, common space, street trees, and all these landscapings requirements are being met through new plantings and utilization of tree credits. The site currently has 53,554 square feet of existing tree canopy, or roughly 27% of the site, and the development is proposing to retain 21% of that tree canopy. And because of that, they would have to plant 15% new tree canopy as a tier 2 requirement. So a traffic impact analysis was required for this project, and one was conducted in accordance with an approved scope through City of Hendersonville and NCDOT. That TIA was submitted by the developer's traffic consultant, and it was then reviewed by the city's traffic consultant, Kimley Horn, who stated that based on the technical review of the TIA as submitted, the analysis as stated should be updated to address a few technical issues found. However, all noted discrepancies are minor and are not expected to render any changes to the recommendations once revised. The TIA showed that this development would add roughly 1,826 new daily trips, 118 AM peak hour trips, and 180 PM peak hour trips. 6 intersections were reviewed as part of this TIA, and there were no recommended mitigations to offset any of the traffic concerns for this development. City staff and the developer, neither of which proposed any conditions for this project. Moving into the future land use, as I previously mentioned, it is mixed-use employment, a designation that is found east of the railroad tracks running perpendicular to 176 and follows 176 until Shepherd Street. A node of neighborhood center can be found to the north. This node surrounds the Brooklyn Avenue and Spartanburg Highway intersection. Parcels to the south are designated as open space conservation. This designation corresponds with the area's proximity to King Creek and its associated floodplains. 2 parcels to the southeast of the subject property are designated as institutional, and this corresponds with the proposed City Fire Station number 3 and the property directly adjacent to it. Sealy Corporation to the southwest is designated as production. The subject property was listed as an underdeveloped piece of property in the land supply and land suitability maps. Both parcels were designated between moderately suitable and most suitable for commercial uses, and the character area description is generally consistent, and the zoning crosswalk designation is consistent. Moving into current land use and zoning, Spartanburg Highway is predominantly made up of C3 highway business zoning, a district that historically found along our major commercial corridors. Just beyond the intersection of Shepherd Street and Spartanburg Highway, the corridor transitions to Henderson County's jurisdiction and is zoned community commercial. Parcels to the east are zoned R15 medium density residential and are mostly comprised of single family homes. To the northeast sits the recently approved Mayberry Woods development, which is zoned urban residential conditional zoning district. Moving into the other rezoning criteria, first of which is compatibility. The proposed development is strategically located near other institutional facilities along this corridor, such as the Henderson County Social Services Building and the proposed future fire department. Introducing CHMU zoning along the Spartanburg Highway corridor aligns with the goals of the Gen H comprehensive plan for this area. Therefore, this project is not only compatible with the current character of the corridor, but also with its envisioned future. Change conditions, the subject property is currently associated with an expired special use permit, and any development on the site would require a rezoning. Public interest, this development would offer residents on the southern side of Henderson County greater access to primary care, physical therapy, and pharmacy services, bringing these amenities closer to their homes. As far as public facilities, the site will be served with city services, and the property abuts 2 NCDOT main roadways. Effects on natural environment, as there are no parts of this property that's within a floodplain or floodway. As I mentioned, there is a bloodline stream that runs through the property that was piped, so none of the stream buffer requirements would be applicable, and they are meeting the tree canopy preservation requirements. So moving into the planning board's recommendation, the planning board took this application up at their June 12th meeting. They recommended the addition of the following condition to be placed on the rezoning. That condition states, during the final site plan approval, the existing piped blue line stream running through the property shall be reviewed and evaluated. If the city of Hendersonville, in coordination with the developer's engineer, determines that the pipe's integrity or capacity is inadequate to serve its intended function, it shall be removed and replaced or fixed as part of the project's construction. The developer agreed to this condition, and it is currently shown on the plans. So the planning board's motion, including that condition for approval, carried unanimously. The planning board provided the comprehensive plan consistency statement that's shown on the screen, which found the petition consistent with the range of goals, guiding principles, and future land use designation of the Gen H comprehensive plan. On the screen is the planning board's reasonableness statement for approval. I have also drafted a reasonableness statement for denial. I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Any questions? Would a representative of the applicant wish to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. Thank you for your consideration of this rezoning request this evening. I'm John Bryant, Vice President for Operations and Support Services with UNC Health Part E, and just very grateful for the opportunity to present this service and this continued growth of our ability to care for the community in the southern part of Henderson County. I'm joined this evening by our design team from LS3P, WGLA, Equinox and Vinoy Construction, as well as Henderson County. I really appreciate the feedback that we received during the neighborhood compatibility session, as well as from the planning board. What we recognize is this not only aligns to the Gen H 2045 comprehensive plan for the city, but it really allows us to extend access to the southern part of the county. When we talk about bringing access as close to your home as possible, it's critically important that we do that across the way. And so we are very grateful to present that to you this evening, recognize that it's an opportunity for us to better serve the county, and really appreciate the feedback that we've received along the way. As I said, our design team is here. We're glad to answer any questions that you might have as it relates to UNC Health Part E or any element of the project itself.
Do you have any questions? Yes, no.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you,
Thank
City
you,
Council.
Mr. Grant. And does anyone, you covered everyone then? Okay. Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Mayor, it has.
We will open that public hearing. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak regarding this proposed conditional zoning district? Is there anyone online seeking recognition?
Yes, Madam Mayor, one hand is raised.
Okay, you would call on them, please.
Ken Fitch, you are unmuted.
Ken Fitch, 1046 Patton Street. The official planning path for this project was distinctive for its positivity and productivity. The neighborhood compatibility meeting facilitated by Tyler Morrow was distinguished by the fact that unlike many such meetings that are confrontational, this gathering generated a thoughtful discussion and fruitful dialogue in which the planning team and the public considered a wide range of issues, during which notes were taken and suggestions seriously considered, all of which are most appropriate for a facility that would serve the public and be sensitive to its particular location. The effective, responsive planning team included Mr. Rhodes from the county, as well as engineering components led by Mr. Jones, and environmental consultation from Equinox, and of course, Dr. Bryant, who is well known to city residents for his exemplary community stewardship as superintendent of city schools. And Maggie Carnevale has a place in the hearts of many for her work on Hendersonville High School, one of the city's primary historic institutions. The project has been presented to serving residents of the southern section of the county, but in actuality, it might also serve city residents who live south of the city flood zone. And significantly, the location of this facility for medical appointments and physical therapy does relieve the concentration of traffic that this facility might generate if located in the core medical facility zone in the middle of the city. At the planning board meeting, I did raise an issue about the necessity to determine the condition of the pipe stream under the property. The planning board has suggested a condition for such a determination, as you have heard. And Dr. Bryant and Maggie Carnevale would certainly be attuned to this issue, given their experience with the historic infrastructure piping failures at Hendersonville High School. A condition might seem practically unnecessary given the participants, but the condition serves as a jurisdictional validation of the importance of addressing this issue. Glenn Lang from the Tree Board spoke at the planning board about the extraordinary fact of this project is that it recommends native plants for the vegetation. And we're proving that yes, it can be done for a major facility. On another issue, in response to one of the community posts by the ever-resilient Allison Justice, I attended one of the 7th Avenue events at which some representatives from Apple Country Transit were present. And I mentioned this project, and those representatives were interested in the bus stop and the shelter for the location that might serve residents from other sections of the city who would travel to this facility. In these economic times, I did ask the question of taxpayer impact, and Dr. Bryant has a surprising, dazzling answer. And you might wish to ask him about that if you wish, as the public might have some interest in understanding whether the taxpayers are involved in this project. But again, the process for this project was a positive experience, time well spent and contributory to our community health, and one appreciates the responsible participation of all involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Is there anyone else seeking recognition?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, we'll close that public hearing. Council?
Madam Mayor, I move City Council adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation of the subject property pins 9578-41-6876 and 9578-42-5074 from C3SU Highway Business Special Use to CHMU-CZV Commercial Highway Mixed Use Conditional Zoning District for the construction of a 42,520 square foot medical office building based on the master site plan and list of conditions submitted by and agreed to by the applicant dated 6/4/25 and presented at this meeting and subject to the following. The development shall be consistent with the site plan, including the list of applicable conditions contained therein and the following permitted use: offices, business, professional, and public. The petition is found to be consistent with the City of Hendersonville General 2045 Comprehensive Plan based on the information from the staff analysis and public hearing, and because the petition is consistent with the range of goals, guiding principles, and the future land use designation of Chapter 4 of the Gen H Comprehensive Plan. Furthermore, we find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis, public hearing, and because the proposed development will provide citizens who reside on the southern side of Henderson County the opportunity to have primary care, physical therapy, and pharmacy service within a closer proximity to where they live. The proposed development is within close proximity to other institutional uses along this corridor.
Kept your breath after that one. Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor of this conditional zoning district, Spartanburg Highway Medical Office Building, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carried, and that rezoning has also been done. Thank you all for being here.
Can we ask what the dazzling response was?
Yeah.
We need to get you back up.
I want to be dazzled.
I don't know that it's dazzling, but I think it's pretty extraordinary because you all were a part of this before. When you think of the Health Science Center building and what that partnership represents, where we built the Cancer Center, Wingate University occupies the second floor of Blue Ridge Community College. County is the funding partner. The occupants pay the note. And so much like is happening with these medical office buildings, Henderson County is borrowing the money on our behalf at no burden or cost to the taxpayer in this community. And when we occupy that building, we pay the note for that work. And so it's a tremendous way in which we talk about our local government entities and our citizens help promote the growth and care for our community by saying that that's a zero burden or a zero-sum game. And so you all were part of making that possible when you think of what happens on our campus at the Health Science Center building, because that was the development strategy there and gave us a model to do in some other places. So pretty exceptional. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
That was pretty dazzling.
Yeah, that was
Thank you. I'll be back next week. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have another rezoning. Quattlebaum Properties, Mr. Hayes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. This is a city-initiated initial rezoning for a property off of Upward Road. The subject property was recently annexed into the city and is currently zoned Henderson County Regional Commercial, and the city is proposing zoning it to commercial highway mixed use. Like I said before, this is an initial zoning. The property was annexed into the city. The property owner did not request a zoning district, so therefore CHMU was proposed by staff. And the subject property is 2.65 acres. So here you can see 3 site photos. They're all very similar. This is a very flat property. There are no trees, and it's off of Upward Road. The property is classified as mixed-use commercial in the future land use map. As you can see, most of the vicinity is classified as mixed-use commercial, especially those properties flanking Upward Road. Here you can see the current county zoning of the regional commercial. In the immediate vicinity, there are similarly annexed properties with CHMU as well as C3. And CHMU, as you all are aware, was established in 2011 for the express purpose of rezoning properties along Upward Road. The subject property was not ranked in the suitability assessment maps in the comprehensive plan. It is located in an area designated as high in the development intensity map. The subject property is not located in one of the 5 focus areas, but it is located in a focused intensity node. Staff found the property to be consistent with the character area description for the future land use designation and also found it consistent for the zoning crosswalks. Rezoning the property to CHMU is compatible with other uses along the corridor, and the CHMU designation is compatible with the city's desire to use the zoning district along this corridor. As for changed conditions, the property was recently annexed into the city. The rezoning of the property is in the public interest because it will enable the Upward Road corridor to develop in the same zoning district over time, ensuring a cohesive procession of development along that corridor. And since the parcel was annexed, it will have access to city water and sewer. And the development will have to comply with all of the city ordinance provisions regarding the protection of the natural environment. So here is the comprehensive plan consistency statement. The planning board did vote to approve this 7-0. And then I have a draft rationale for approval as well as a rationale for denial, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Is there a representative from the property owner that would like to speak? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Mayor, it has.
All right, we will open that public hearing. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak? Is there anyone online who wishes to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close that public hearing. Council, discussion or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move City Council adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Hendersonville and changing the zoning designation of the subject property PIN 9588-40-7325 from Henderson County zoning RC Regional Commercial to CHMU Commercial Highway Mixed Use based on the following. The petition is found to be consistent with the City of Hendersonville Gen H 2045 comprehensive plan based on the information from the staff analysis and public hearing, and because the petition is consistent with a range of goals, guiding principles, and future land use designation of Chapter 4 of the Gen H comprehensive plan. Furthermore, we find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis, public hearing, and because the proposed map amendment would rezone the property to an appropriate zoning district meant for the Upward Road corridor, and the adjacent property uses are congruent with the proposed zoning.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor of the standard rezoning for the Quattlebaum properties, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries, and that one is done. Thank you. All right, now we have landmark nomination. the James P. and Hattie Gregory House. Mr. Hayes.
Yes, so a little something different for you all to consider. So this is, the city is in receipt of a application for local landmark status from the property owners of 910 Locust Street. And so since this is many of your first time looking at a local landmark, I just kind of briefly wanted to touch on kind of the process for how this works. So the city receives an application, we received it from the property owner. A draft designation report was created. That actually goes to the State Historic Preservation Office. They review it, give advice. We don't have to take their advice, but they give, professional expertise and advice. We have a public hearing at the Historic Preservation Commission that happened earlier this month, or I guess last month rather. And then the final step is to come to you all for a public hearing, and then approval or denial. So. And then once it's designated, it will require a certificate of appropriateness from our Historic Preservation Commission for any alterations that go on the exterior of the property. And with that comes a tax deferment for the property owner as well. So the subject property is, you can see it highlighted here. The property is located on Locust Street. In the immediate vicinity, you can see Bruce Drysdale Elementary School, and up the street is the city's mini golf course located at Edwards Park. So a little about the history of this property. The property was constructed between 1923 and 1925, most likely dating to 1924, making it just over 100 years old. There is an accessory structure on the property. It's a shed structure not depicted on this map, which dates from the early 1900s. However, it's likely that structure was constructed around the time that the home was constructed. The home was constructed by James P. and Hattie Gregory, and it was owned by them for 70 years. This structure is a contributing structure in the Cold Spring Park National Historic District, which is known for its craftsman-style homes. This home is a craftsman-style home. You'll see that in a few slides. And just one question I wanted to address is why it would be necessary to landmark this building if it's already in a historic district. The key here is that the Cold Spring Park Historic District is a national historic district, which means that there's no regulatory authority that comes along with that. And so designating it as a local landmark, like I said before, means that our Historic Preservation Commission has some purview over that. So I wanted to point out some of the architectural details that are important to this, and I think speak to the significance of this structure. So like I mentioned, this area is known for its craftsman-style homes. This is an excellent example of craftsman style. So kind of working from the bottom to the top of this home, we have the walls leading up the steps on either going up to the front porch are wing walls, which is very characteristic of a craftsman-style home. The full width front porch is original to the house, also very characteristic of a craftsman-style home. The right-hand image, you can see some of these original details that we have. So there's actually a 9/1 window. You can just barely see it tucked in there. That's original. It's one of the few original windows remaining in the home, but it is in excellent condition. And then the roof line is very characteristic. You actually have a clipped gable on the front, which is characteristic of craftsmen, but this one is quite unique in the style. And then you have these knee braces that are, decorative, but, appear to be holding up the roof in the eaves. So all very characteristic. Here you can see the rear of the home. There was an enclosed porch on the back side. It was enclosed at some point in the history, but it actually has windows that mimic that one on the front house with those 9/1 design. And then you can see the outbuilding, which actually, kind of harkens back to what the house probably looked like when it was first built. So it has German siding on it, as well as exposed rafter and switches, also characteristic of Craftsman. And one of our Historic Preservation Commission members actually said that there are locust posts in this outbuilding used in the construction. And he seemed to think that that may be where the name of the street came from, or at least there was some connection to that since this is located on Locust Street. And then the final architectural element on the front of the house, there's a cut stone wall running along the front boundary, which is also very significant to this home. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Would the property owner like to make any comments?
Madam Mayor and Council, thanks for taking a look at the house. It,
If you could just give your name for the clerk's record.
Say it again?
If you could give your name for the
Oh,
clerk's
I'm
record.
so sorry, Barbara Grosso, and I am the owner along with my husband Norman Royo. The things that Sam told you about the house are all really accurate, and the things that the council member that was here, not council member, the committee member that was here told us about the house were quite remarkable too. It also has a root cellar in that same building, but that's not the pertinent thing. The thing I'd like to point out is significant for Hendersonville, because that the roof line, can you see it? Do you have it here? That truncated hip-on gable roof. As you drive around Hendersonville, you'll see more of them. But when you go away from this area, you're very unlikely to see it. I contacted some real estate agents, some architect friends, different people that live all over the country, and sent them the picture. They said, haven't seen that one before. And so I think that it is a wonderful example of a craftsman in Hendersonville, and worth preserving for that reason, because as the properties get more valuable and these little houses get torn down, I'd like to think that one with that funny face is still gonna be standing. That's all I had to say.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay. Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Mayor, it does.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Does anyone present wish to speak? Is there anyone online wishing to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close that public hearing. Council, discussion or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move the City Council approve the adoption of an ordinance designating the James P. and Hattie Gregory House, PIN 9569-70-9549 as a local historic landmark.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not? Those in favor of this landmark nomination, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Been done. Thank you for bringing it to us. All right, we have another one for Lennox Spring.
Yes, so the Historic Preservation Commission actually initiated this landmark designation for a city-owned property known as Lennox Spring or Lennox Park. As mentioned earlier, the commission recommended for approval the historic landmarking of the Lennox Spring property at their last meeting. So here you can see the location of the park. It's located along Lennox Park Drive across from Trailside Brewery is a good landmark for that. It's a small park with the main elements being historic resources as well as a picnic table and a grill. So here you can see a survey the Historic Preservation Commission had done of the park. It's a very small park. But here I've just pulled out those historic resources. So you have the spring basin on the right-hand side, and then you actually have some stone steps that are actually on an adjacent property. The city has worked to get an easement from that property owner so that the city can do some restoration on those steps and make sure that they're maintained. But that actually is on an adjacent property. So just a brief overview of the history. The period of significance of the property is 1917 to 1970. Though the spring waters date back for hundreds of years. A real estate developer known as F.A. Sumner platted the neighborhood known as Lenox Park in 1917. The spring was incorporated into the development and was seen as an amenity of the development. Throughout the early 1900s, the spring was a popular attraction for those residents in Hendersonville, as well as a tourist attraction. So, people came to Hendersonville to, drink these spring waters. It was purchased by the city in 1942 and was established as a public park. And then in 1970, the spring was covered due to concerns over potability of the water. So then here you can just see some older images of this area. So as you can see on the left image, the spring once had a significant amount of stonework and concrete around it. So it had, a concrete path that led from those steps down to the spring. There was an archway there. I'll show you some current photos. It does look quite different from this photo. And then on the right, you can see that there also used to be a picket fence that went around the park and a stone entrance, or a stone column entrance. So then here we have some of the current photos. So you can see, the basin is still there. Some of the historic architectural elements are still there as well. And then these are those steps. And this is really why we wanted to get an easement for these, because there's a lot of maintenance that could be done here. The steps actually continue pretty far up onto this hill. And so they can be uncovered and restored appropriately. And then the final thing I'll mention, we were able to do some additional research, and there's historical evidence that a streetcar ran to Lenox Spring from Main Street. And here you can see what is believed to be a remaining rail that is still in the park. It actually sits in front of those stone steps. And then the last thing I'll mention is that at the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, there was discussion about the use of the spring by the Cherokee people, and the commission directed staff to work to document this history to be included in the broader historic context of this site. So staff is working on that. And with that, I can take any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Hayes, is there any chance that the water will flow again? I can remember my mother taking a mason jar, going down there, getting water to drink. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I'm not sure about the answer. Is where I'll leave it.
I just want the healing properties from the water.
Yeah.
Fountain of youth.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Mayor, it has.
We will open this public hearing. Is anyone present who'd like to speak? Anyone online?
Yes, Madam Mayor, one hand is raised. Kent Fitch, you are unmuted.
Ken Fish, 1046 Patton Street. The history of this spring extends back generations and centuries, revered in oral tradition and local lore as a place sacred to Native Americans. In addition to its documented history, it is still remembered now in living memory by local residents who went here to partake of the waters, as you have just heard by a most distinguished member of council. And then your family still remembers coming to this location for family picnics. And we should note that this site has a future significance, as it will be a historic feature on the Augusta Trail. so its history will thus travel far and wide, well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Is there anyone else?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, go ahead and close that public hearing. Council, discussion, or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move City Council approve the adoption of an ordinance designating Lenox Spring PIN 9568-55-1019 as a local historic landmark.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of this landmark nomination say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries, and that one has been done too. Thank you. Right. We have an item of new business, annexation analysis and advisement.
Y'all are making Sam do everything.
It's the last one. Yes, so the city has received an annexation petition, and I will be presenting our annexation analysis and advisement. The property is located at 412 McMurray Road on the eastern side of I-26. The property is 14.22 acres. The proposed use of the property is multifamily apartments. The map on the right shows the property highlighted in yellow, and you can see it's approximately 6,903 feet as the crow flies from the contiguous city limits. The county's comprehensive plan has this parcel designated as agricultural and rural, and the city's comprehensive plan has the property designated as mixed-use employment. Henderson County currently has this property zoned as industrial. The city would likely advise zoning this property as commercial highway mixed use, given that it sits directly adjacent to the Upward Road Planning District that the CHMU zoning district was established to use in. And then I just wanted to give you all the several options for that you all can consider. So the first, you all can require annexation and provide sewer. Under this circumstance, you could allow the project to proceed, however, allow county land to be used. This is subject to county agreement to zone. If no county action is taken, the project would proceed likely under the CHMU zoning district. Another option you have is to not allow annexation but provide sewer service. And then a third option is to not allow annexation and not provide city sewer service. And then I have the motion for directing staff, and then the motion for not directing staff, and then that's all I have.
So I will jump in here based on the agreement that the city council made with the county regarding this area of our city. I think Sam's analysis is accurate, and our recommendation, I think the manager's recommendation is that we would want to go forward with annexation to provide sewer in order for them to get sewer, but also make the request by resolution to the county to zone it and give them the appropriate time to rezone it, or if they do not do that, it would come back to us to be zoned. So that would be my recommendation.
Any discussion? Comments? Motion?
Madam Mayor, I move council direct staff to move forward in reviewing the annexation petition submitted by CDP Acquisitions LLC. Do I need to add anything about? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of the motion to move forward, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries, and we'll hear more about that later. Next, 2025 Water and Sewer Revenue Bond Order. Mr. Murr.
Mayor and council, good evening. Don't have a PowerPoint with me this evening, but
Oh.
sorry.
We're so disappointed.
I know you guys love budget presentations, so I'm here to talk with you about the revenue bond issuance we've been working on since about March of 2025. So this agenda item is the bond order, which directs staff along with our consultants to go to the LGC to secure $10.6 million in water and sewer revenue bonds to fund several projects, including a portion of the biosolids project, a 15 MGD expansion at the water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant residual storage facility, the scour system at the Mills River raw water intake, the NCDOT Highland Lake Road improvements project, the operations facility expansion improvement project, and a CCTV truck acquisition. So as I mentioned, we've been working on this since about March. Council, you adopted our initial resolution directing us not to exceed $11.5 million in issuance, not to exceed a 6.00% interest rate, and that was at the May 1st meeting. So this is the final action the board needs to take. Following the board's action this evening, we would go to the LGC, secure funding, and have the public sale of our bonds between July 16th and July 30th, which is our closing day. Along with this process, important to note, we've been working with rating agencies, doing a due diligence period, and received a favorable rating from Moody's specific to the water and sewer utility of capital A, lowercase a, 3, which is their fourth highest rating behind some other double A's with numbers. So the system was rated well based on our financial performance. We're looking forward to issuing that debt and getting the projects underway, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I just had a question. So if there were to be state money coming in for, say, a grant for us to pursue half of this, like the wastewater, how does that work if the bond is already issued? You just pay it off earlier, or?
Correct. So we can always prepay the debt, and the water and sewer revenue bond projects as a security, we're using the ability of city council to affix and affirm rates. So the security isn't in the asset, meaning you can, instead of project A, which might be now grant funded, you can shuffle those funds to project B as long as it's related to water and sewer infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Council,
Thank you.
discussion, motion?
Madam Mayor, I move the City Council approve the bond order authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $11,500,000 City of Hendersonville, North Carolina Water and Sewer System Revenue Bonds, Series 2025, authorizing the approval, execution, and delivery of various documents in connection with the issuance of such 2025 bonds, providing for the sale of the 2025 bonds, and providing for certain other matters in connection with the issuance, sale, and delivery of the 2025 bonds as presented.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of approving the revenue bond order, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it, motion carries, and can move forward with that. Thank you. All right, city manager report.
Mayor Volk, members of City Council, you have your June 2025 contingency and adjustment report available for you. We'll be glad to answer any questions. And since I directed staff to be efficient tonight, I will be efficient and say I have no report.
I'm so confused right now. I'm sorry. That's my comment.
Okay, any city council comments this evening? No?
Disbelief.
And we do have a closed session.
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 and 4 to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pursuant to the law of this state or of the United States or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes, and to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not? Those in favor of entering closed session say aye.